Nimesh Patel, son of Parsippany, New Jersey, whose special is called Thank You, China, is a comedian who's blowing up. He was the first Indian of any stripe to write for Saturday Night Live. He's a very interesting survivor of the culture wars. I would think a winner of the culture wars. He won. Nimesh, welcome to The Gist. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Good. So what I like to do on this show is talk about the jokes that comedians make and regard them as arguments, regard them as like an op-ed is how I often phrase it. And you've written an op-ed for the New York Times, actually. So they're kind of different things, I know. But what are the similarities since you have written to win an argument and you've also written jokes to get a laugh?
What are the similarities between a joke to win an argument? I mean, a joke to get a laugh in an argument?
Well, the kind of routines, I know you do a lot of different kinds of jokes, and a lot of jokes are based on upended expectations, and you command the stage really well. But you also have a lot of jokes where you're building a thesis. Yeah.
I've tried in my recent stand-up, I've tried to veer away from any thesis-driven material only because I don't want to make arguments any longer. I'd rather just be, here's something silly and stupid that happened to me. Now what's the turn I can make in it from like a writing perspective?
Right.
In the earlier iterations of my stand-up, there was definitely, okay, what am I trying to say? What do I think about a particular thing? What's the point? And now how do I get there? And how do I have a joke about each thing along the way?
Yeah.
And then that makes it funny. And then hopefully the end is some turn.
Yeah.
That ultimately subverts the entire argument upon me. Because I found early on that like trying to convince a group of people to agree with me, it just didn't fulfill the comedic ego, which is,
yeah, I've heard you like you'll get applause, don't clap. You'll say shut up.
See, we don't need to stop Asian hate. We need to stop American stupidity. That's what needs to happen. Stop, don't clap. People started beating up Asians because some asshole got on TV and said Asians have a highly contagious virus. Someone tells you Asians have a highly contagious disease, and your first instinct is to get within fighting distance of this person?
I want to be annoying. Like that's like my like annoying, but like you still having a good time. That's my comedic kind of sensibility. And if that means I'm annoying you and because I'm winning you over with an argument, sure. Because I'm making you agree with something you don't want to agree with, right? Yeah. But that's where I'm headed now. So I mean, to answer your question, they're similar in the sense I'm trying to get to a point, but I think with the joke part, it's like let's pepper along to like soft. It's like jab, jab, jab. Okay, where's the hook to put you to bed?
Do you think that's compared to the trajectory of most comedians backwards? I would think that most comedians start with here are jokes, here are a bunch of jokes, and then they say to themselves, all right, what's the truth of these jokes, or what really is this adding up to?
You know, I can't speak much to a lot of my peers or whoever approaches any particular set of jokes. For me, it's always been I'm going through different phases of my joke writing life, right? And yeah, I'm only 12 or 14 years into comedy, which I know is a lot, but for me, I feel like a baby, you know, like a rookie and a vet at the same time kind of thing, where there was times like, okay, I definitely started with jokes.
Yes.
These are all the jokes. And then it became, okay, now let me try to say something with my jokes and say healthcare is bullshit or whatever it is. And now I'm at a point where I think the subtext of the joke, if you get it, you get it. Otherwise, you just appreciate it on the surface, which is also fine with me. But if you're really listening, I'm saying stuff that's not, that I'm not saying, at least in the current hour that I'm working on right now.
What do you mean you're saying stuff that you're not saying?
Let's see.
Like you're saying things that you don't believe in.
No, I'm saying, like, I'm trying to think of an example of a finished joke that I can tell without telling you the joke and still get to what I'm trying to get at. I have a bit about how I used to work for a billionaire, right? And on the surface, the joke is about this billionaire was an asshole, whatever. But the subtext is money is everything, right? And like that, like annoyingly, as much as we want to not believe that, that's what it is. And I could be up here bullshitting about how unhappy this guy was or whatever the fuck it was. At the end of the day, I still work for him. I still need a job, and I still am driven by money. And that's the whole. That subtext is not. That if you pick up on that, you pick up on it. If not, so,
you never say it as connective tissue. You never say it's bullshit when people say you follow your bliss. It's not important. You never say that.
No, it's
clear that your point, or it should be clear if the audience gets
right.
it.
If they get it, if they don't, that's fine.
Right,
and they'll glue their own values onto what I'm saying, which is also okay.
Yeah. So was it about 2 years ago when Thank You China came out?
Thank You China came out this, I think April 2022, I'm going to say something like that.
And maybe by the time it came out, you were moving on, but at least let's talk about what you were thinking of and what excited you about doing that material.
Healthcare is a criminal enterprise. It is. I wasn't concerned about getting COVID and dying. When it's your time to go, you go. I was concerned about getting COVID, being in a hospital for 2 weeks, and then coming out with a bill for $2 million. That's what I was terrified of. That happened to multiple people in this country. The greatest country in the world, multiple people got $2 million bills for having coronavirus. If I was in a coma for 2 weeks and I came out with a bill for $2 million, I would laugh myself back into the coma. $2 million, yeah, put the shit on China's tab. I paid for that shit. Call up Xi Jinping, tell him Nimesh Patel owes him $2 million. $2 million? $2 million. Because healthcare is a criminal enterprise.
You have a long bit about healthcare, and there's a thesis statement in it, and the thesis is
Americans do not deserve healthcare.
That's a funny thesis. And another one, you level the healthcare industry, and I think you're tweaking your cousins by saying
healthcare is a criminal enterprise.
Right. So I thought there were great jokes around that.
Thank you.
Did you start resenting the clapping? Did you start saying, all right, just by saying this, I feel like I'm not being as pure I can be as a comedian?
I think I didn't resent the clapping so much as I resented that it wasn't a complete argument. And much to my detriment and much to the annoyance of many physicians who watch comedy and think it's supposed to be complete. Like when a comedian gets on stage, they're not on stage to win anything or make an argument.
Right.
It's to be funny.
Right.
And then on the off chance that they are making an argument, to me, it's like if you're watching, you either hate that their argument's incomplete or you understand that they're not up there to make a complete argument. They're there to just say whatever they find funny. And if it bolsters their argument, sure. If not, they left it out on purpose because it didn't. For me, when I was developing that, it was boring to talk about how much insurance companies are actually evil and how much evil private equity plays in the healthcare industry and how evil insurance companies and private equity companies they're then working together is in hospital, all that. It wasn't funny. And so I just dropped it.
Yeah.
What was funny to me was to annoy doctors.
Yeah.
And the pushback I got was like from doctors saying like, you don't understand what's going on in healthcare. It's like, no, I fully understand what's going on in healthcare. I know doctors aren't fully to blame. I know they deserve some of the blame, but definitely not the lion's share. But trying to talk about the 90% of blame belonging to other people, it wasn't funny.
Right. So so you were saying to yourself, like, guys, it's just supposed to be funny. Concentrate on the jokes. And then you say to yourself, well, if I'm telling them to concentrate on the jokes, guess how I could help them?
Right.
Just by giving them the jokes.
Yes.
Not giving them the other connective tissue.
Exactly. And that definitely, in hindsight, was like, man, I could have just left one or two shitty insurance jokes in there, and that would have been like, okay. But I think I said at one point, it's not fully your fault.
Yeah.
But I don't know people that work in insurance companies.
Right.
I know plenty of doctors. And I know plenty of doctors who are doing shit they shouldn't be doing. On the right side of the law, but on the gray side of what you would find morally correct. And so, that was
because you have 16 first cousins and what?
5 of them are doctors, and all we do is argue about healthcare prices in America. Why don't you do something about healthcare prices? And all my doctor cousins say the same thing. Our hands are tied, okay? Our hands are tied. It's a system that's broken, which is the dorkiest way of saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. Doctors don't do shit because their hands are tied with money. That's what the problem is. Listen, we care about people. We don't do it for the money. And then they drive off in a Tesla. It's like, wait, what, bro? What? Mother Teresa never had no Model 3.
And so I know, and one of them now works for an insurance company. And 3 of them are like hyper specialized. And one of them who is indirectly employed by private equity because he's a ER physician at a urgent care center, which is owned by a private equity company.
Yeah.
So like I know a lot of and I've been a patient like a billion times. And when I was at Sam B, Full Frontal with Samantha B for 6 months as a field producer, like the piece that got me hired was a piece on the healthcare industry. And so like I always found it funny when people are like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, I do, but I can't present the argument if all of it's not funny.
Right.
I'm just here to make jokes. Like, stop thinking I'm trying to change the world here.
Do you think, though, let's look back.
Yeah.
A couple observations. One, the audience loved it. 2, I as a member of the audience, loved it. Not just the jokes, the argument. By the way, I'm not one of these people who always has to believe in an argument. I just appreciate the fact. So maybe I'm not a doctor, but then again, a doctor doesn't go halfway. Once they open up a patient, they know they have to suture him closed to be complete. But my question is, now, where you are now, you look back and say, A, it was annoying to have to say this to doctors, and B, I acknowledge there was a bunch of stuff that wasn't funny.
100%.
Right. Does that mean you won't change your mind? Like maybe you'll go in phases and you'll get back into a phase where you say, okay, now I'm going to use my jokes to lard and make points along the way. Might you go back to that form of comedy?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it really depends on what happens to me and what life I'm living.
Sure.
It's right now I'm just taking what comes in. I think there's a lot of value in approaching a joke or a situation from an argument perspective because it can help you. It's always good to play the contrarian with yourself, and then in that sense, like argue with yourself.
Yes,
that's a good writing exercise to do.
You find things there.
Yes.
It's surprising things, and that's where comedy lies, not what's expected.
Right.
So you know what you expect because that's your own brain. So you say to yourself, all right, what's the other side? You'll come up with things you didn't expect. Guess what? There's often comedy there.
Yes, 100%. Like if I'm talking to myself from the perspective of my billionaire boss, that's a fun way to challenge the jokes that I'm making, right?
Yeah.
But again, that just really depends on if the joke or thing I'm trying to make funny beckons an argument versus beckons a silly story or a character or something like that.
Other than that process of being the contrarian and playing it out in your head, do you think that creatively there was anything to approaching that bit as I have this tree and the branches from the tree are going to be jokes? Like if you didn't do that, if all you said was I'm just going to think of jokes of healthcare, maybe you'd only think of 2 and stop there and you wouldn't think of the great third joke. I
think with that bit in particular, that bit came together over like I almost like 5 or 6 years. That's a long.
In fact, I'll interrupt you. You have 2 bits where the NYU Langone Medical Center are connected because of both your experiences there. And I bet he's in there waiting in the ER saying, just thinking of funny things or outrageous things, or he's probably writing. He can't help it, but he's probably writing in this moment, just as he was writing in that moment years ago from the same place.
It was anytime I've been to a hospital, a lot of material has come out of it, whether it be with the asthma attack or the time I had a bowel obstruction or my testicular cancer scare. Like all three of those, I was just like, I should have gotten a punch card at NYU, like, oh, he's back. Here it is again, like clockwork, like 2:00 in the morning, something hurts. What's going on? I was always I'm always kind of in the writing mode. I think it's one way to I think at some point as a comedian, your brain just switches into just ABW and always be writing, whether it be whatever I'm doing.
So you weren't pressured to be a doctor per se, right? You were studying what at NYU?
I wasn't. I was studying. I was a finance pre-med. I was a finance major, pre-med, all elective classes. So that's how you have to do it there. But I wasn't pressured to be a doctor in high school or anything like that. Like maybe I was incepted into being one, wanting to be one. Like I really wanted to be one.
Yeah.
It seemed at the time, and still is, a great profession, a noble one to take care of people and save lives and have that kind of power in your hands, And let's not forget, there's a lot of money. Every doctor that I knew had like an insane car and like a big ass house and never seemed stressed about anything from a money perspective. And so it was like, oh yeah, that seems. And my mom and dad were like, yeah, it's like a great job. You should become a doctor. In India, it's like a very respected and noble thing to become one. Junior year NYU, I get a C+ in Orgo. I'm like, my heart's really not in this. I was in a personally not dark, but just like sad place. My relationship was going poorly. My parents were struggling in their own right. And so it was just like a lot of shit was going on. And it just felt like just my heart was not in medicine. And so I dropped it my junior year. And finance was just something I picked up. Like I was at CAS, the College of Arts and Sciences.
Funny fallback, man.
Yeah, it was, it was just something I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be, I was at the College of Arts and Sciences at NYU my freshman year. I got a 4.0. And I was like, I could transfer to Stern, the undergrad business school. And it's like, top something 20 program in the country for business, whatever it was then. It might have been higher then. I was like, why wouldn't I do that if I can still do pre-med and just make all my, I don't really want to be a chem major. Why not just make all my major classes finance? Like, but I did not know I'd be competing against kids who were like trading stock at like 9th grade, like people who fucking loved finance, who knew what it was.
Yeah.
I was going in just like, how hard could this shit be? And it was hard. It was hard shit.
Wait, did the professor who gave you the C, was that the literal professor that all the kids rose up against
and
complained about the fact that he graded them fairly?
That would have been so funny, but that, I think, that story made me laugh so much because like back in my day, if we got a C in Orgo, we just dropped that shit and pursued stand-up comedy.
There you go.
That was the champion's way out. But no, that guy was, he might be dead because that was 2007.
No, he's still around. Right?
Oh,
He's
okay.
still, because it just got reported last year, and he was retired from Princeton. But then
the guy I'm talking about, that kid,
your guy,
yeah, he might be dead. Yeah. That guy was old.
Took the coward's way out.
Yeah, he was old as shit.
Think about organic chemistry; it doesn't change that much over time. There's not like new innovations in breaking down the carbon molecule.
No, it's just like I couldn't like this. Looking at a molecule like this and this.
Yeah.
I just, for whatever reason, couldn't wrap my brain around visualizing things happening like this. And
right.
That's the whole class. And so.
What about the argument that some of the disappointed kids made that you don't really need it? It's not that, the ability to manipulate 3D molecules in your mind, does this come up that often when you're dealing with cancer patients, or especially someone who just got, T-boned by a semi in the ER? It doesn't seem like it does.
I haven't progressed.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer in everything you learn can be applied to everything else that you'll ever do.
Right.
In some way or another. And I'm sure that like if you knew how to take a molecule and turn it this way, then like maybe you would be able to reposition a spleen that someone got fucked up.
It must
at
correlate
some point,
to something practical.
You know.
And then there's the other idea that it should be hard. Like being a doctor should be hard.
It should
This
be
is the way we've always defined that it's hard. It's not totally random.
Right.
So yeah, your complaint is it's hard.
Yeah.
That's not the bug. That's the feature.
But that's the thing. It's like that class shouldn't be the feeder. You know, it should be like human anatomy and physiology should separate the MDs from the people that don't become MDs.
Right.
Because organic chemistry exists as almost like if you're going to go down the research path or if you're going to go down the making
I see what
drugs
you're
path.
saying. Yes.
Sure.
We want to mint doctors for society. This is a little bit of a weird sideline and don't let it have that much impact and control.
Yeah. It's like it's like, why do you need an NBA player to bench like 500 pounds? It's great, but that shouldn't be the test for, that'd be great for an old lineman, but it's a different sport entirely,
Right. It's somewhat related, but yeah, that's a good argument. Sir. So not to get psychological, was there a part of your healthcare system is a lie and a scam and a sham that was addressing either the people in your family or your parents, who I take it weren't that disappointed? I know your grandparents weren't, but a self assessment, a self-justification where you say to yourself, I'm doing something much more pure than you guys are doing, even though you guys are seen as the ones who've had success.
Not exactly, but it's more like the take on doctors is from a perspective of I wanted to be one, and I hold the nobility of physiciandom, or if that's a word, in such high regard. It's like you are literally have literally people's lives in your hands, and you, to me, should be of the utmost high ethical and moral standards. And to see the role that some doctors play in like either not affecting change in the healthcare system or willingly taking advantage of the healthcare system, it bugs me.
Yes.
From a perspective of someone who thinks that if they were in the same position, they would not be doing that, or they would be a lot more active in like be making a union and fighting against the MDAs or MBAs coming into the hospitals to fuck shit up without knowing exactly what they were doing, trying to maximize the dollar that the hospital gets out of each patient. That's where that really comes from. Doctors like, you just jealous you didn't become a doctor. It's like, yeah, maybe there's some deep subconscious like, man, I could have been a hero, maybe. But one layer above that, it's like, okay, if I were a doctor, I would like to believe that I wouldn't try to maximize the dollar I get out of every patient. But who's to say? I don't know. Like I try to get the most dollar out of every fan,
out of every scummy club owner. It's a little bit different.
So it's different, but it's different in the sense that I'm not holding your life hostage,
right?
Anytime with a dollar, that's where that really comes from.
So is that impetus, putting this position in a somewhat exalted place and being disappointed when the people actually occupying it don't live up to that? Does some of that drive your scathing criticism of Narendra Modi?
I like how you made that leap.
Because it's notable to me. I'm like, okay, here's a Hindu, an Indian American who I know of no one who does more anti-Modi material than you.
Much, again, to my detriment, I think I've been shadow banned by a lot of people who are brainwashed by Modi.
And you're not even taking the stand that like very progressive people in America will recognize as morally correct.
Yeah, just. But here's the thing with that, it's I only know the negatives for the most part. I know he's done a lot for the economy. I know he's open.
Yeah.
I know he's done a lot for opening up trade and all that. And if he's kind of taken Trump's playbook and kind of made it a little stronger. He's put India first. He said
he's kind of a competent Trump with 4 times as many people behind him.
Exactly. Yeah. And with like his deal with Russia, him taking on China, he's being a very good statesman. But as a unimpacted observer from my cushy apartment in New York City,
Yeah.
seeing how the vitriol that gets put out against certain groups of people, and even that is from just what I see. I'm not on the ground there, so I don't know how hard it is to be Muslim or anything else in that country. But from what I read and see, it doesn't seem it's not a strong play. And then you have, Hindu nationalists who are taking it a step further, and that just bothers me from a human perspective.
Yeah,
It's like anytime someone thinks their religion should be the superseding one in all matters, it's like, all right, well, this is fucked. I can't agree with this. I'm gonna talk some shit.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, as a grandson of a Hindu Brahmin priest, it makes me feel like I'm in a better position a little bit to be like, you Hindus don't know what Hinduism is, because the religion says love everybody, like everybody, treat everybody the same. At no point does it say like talk shit to Muslims. And then you can't stake your claim as a Hindu person and still be like this evil, angry person.
Do you think the Modi critique falls into the kind of category like what we were talking about with healthcare? Are you just trying to make a joke, or are you trying to make a point?
I think it's more joke than point, but there's definitely intention. There's definitely intention of point.
Yeah.
But it's also
that's not the kind of thing you're running away from these days.
Yeah, I mean,
you're less interested in.
I'm less interested in.
Oh, you are.
Yeah. It's just like I found in the last 3 years in comedy will last forever. If I think about it for real, it's like as comedy becomes more and more distributed and easily accessible and easier to do.
Yes.
And easier to market that you're doing it and put your shit out there. Takes on anything political or social or what, they have to be first, and then they have to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard thing to achieve when everyone's making the same noise, and if 1 billion people are shooting at a basket and they're all some kind of proficient, some are perfect, some are going to get lucky or whatever, then you just got to shoot at a different basket.
Yeah.
This is the social, political, Narendra Modi, health, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm going to be over here talking about, how I grew up in Parsippany.
Right. So I've seen you talk about this, I guess, on Instagram. The late night comedy jokes; those are the easiest jokes to make. Anyone can make it. You don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
In the aspect of like political or whatever. Like,
yes,
I'll still play the political game and I'll still do jokes that I think will market well. But I always say this whenever it comes up, even tangentially. It's like there's a great Jay-Z line where he says, "For those who think that bling blinging is what I'm about, either haven't heard the album or they don't know English." It's like, that's just what I do to market and keep the registers ringing. That's what Jay-Z says. It's like, just so people are like, oh, because that's what people want to hear a lot of times. And then you kind of swing them towards what you actually want to talk about.
But you don't want to let the fact that Instagram videos and reels and these, quick videos where you've had a lot of success, you have 1 million followers, you don't want to let that dictate your content, right?
It does dictate content in the sense of like what is going to grab people's attention.
Yeah.
Content, I think of, it's funny you say content, because it to me it's like there's content and then there's the stand-up that I'm doing at the shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the stand-up I'm doing at the shows all becomes in some way or another content. But the content that goes out that you see on the internet is dictated by what does well on the internet.
That makes sense.
Because I need you to know that I can do that, so that then you could come and see what I actually really like doing. And that's like the game that gets played every day with my social media manager and all that. And then some days I'm like, no, let's put out a joke that I really like and I just want to burn, but has nothing to do with anything that's going on in the world. And then other days it's like, let's put out a Taylor Swift joke, even though she's like a very lovely person.
So I do have a question, though, with Thank You, China, which was the title and the thesis. What you're thanking them for, among other things, are inventing
TikTok.
Inventing TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok made you.
Yes.
Is it tongue-in-cheek? Do you really mean it? I mean, you can't both be a critic of Modi and what he did and his morality and not apply that to
Of course,
the Chinese leaders.
I fully...
But then again, maybe I'm like one of those physicians saying, "Oh, the thesis is not perfectly coherent."
It's no, I mean obviously China's not a good player in the world. Yeah. It's definitely tongue in cheek. The second joke is Hong Kong Shi Woman Do, which means Hong Kong belongs to China. It's like I don't actually mean that. It's just again like I'm always pro joke before I am pro anything. And like whenever when I was touring that hour working on it, I would say China is the best in fucking Texas.
Yeah.
In Florida.
Yeah.
And it would and then I would follow I know that's never been said before in Texas. And that would get a fucking big laugh. And that's the point.
I know. Okay, so the surface similarities between Thank You, China and healthcare is a scam is that they're part of an overall thesis. In fact, what you're explaining to me is that they're opposites. You do believe healthcare is a shame and a scam.
Yes.
But you don't believe Thank You, China. You know all of the flaws of China. It is interesting to you to play with that idea. Yeah. And also, you don't feel that the audience is just giving you cheap applause or you're saying things the audience wants. It's kind of exciting maybe if you have a thesis that goes totally against what the audience's expectations.
Yes, 100%.
So do you have any jokes like that in the current hour you're doing?
I'm working on a lot of personal stuff right now. So it's all like therapy driven.
Yeah.
And then I got some political stuff, but it's all personal. So there's nothing just yet where I'm like taking them along for a ride. There's one or two actually, but I won't reveal them. It's more just about like sexism and shit. So,
but that's the sort of thing you're not jettisoning from your act. The thesis that I know you don't believe in it, but look what I found here.
Yeah, it's just I like fucking with people.
Yes.
And my favorite is knowing that they don't want to laugh at something. And that they shouldn't laugh at something, but they are because I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Like you cannot, I have a joke about being a sexist, right? But if you watch my comedy at all and the surrounding bits, you can't walk away thinking I am that.
Right. Even
though the joke definitely says that I am.
Although in the past, in 2018, people just read your, undergraduates at Columbia just read in a very unsophisticated way the surface level of your comedy, didn't see the intent at all. So you've been, I guess if you want to say victimized, but you've been punished by audiences not getting it.
Everyone is allowed to be dumb. We're all stupid at some point or another.
You're very generous, I think, to that crowd. I've listened to a lot of interviews you've done about them. And to me, if it were me, so my audience understands, Nimesh was up at Columbia, was invited to play an Asian American themed event. He, guess what, is South Asian. That wasn't good enough when he started talking about and making jokes that I'm not going to attempt to replicate because when they do it on the page, it kills the joke. But it's a joke about gay people and black people, but not at gay people and black people. And then they basically kicked him off the stage.
Thank you so much, Nimesh, for being here.
Already?
Yes.
Why?
Thank you so much.
Whoa. I have 30 minutes left.
Yeah, there's a change of program.
Why?
Because we have like some AAA remarks that we need to make.
But some people are enjoying this. I think. Oh, this is going to be real uncomfortable for y'all. All right, well, look, I mean, I've been booed before, but this is strange. All right, let's do a vote.
Actually, we have a change of program. I'm sorry, the tech has to leave for an event.
The tech has to leave?
Yeah.
They better be leaving.
No, they have a dance marathon tomorrow
So why did this come up now?
because they have to leave earlier than expected.
Is it because I'm talking about uncomfortable stuff?
I think you can be respectful while being uncomfortable. Like, I think there's a distinction between being uncomfortable and being disrespectful, isn't there?
I think I'm being respectful.
I just don't think you're entitled to certain jokes you're making, and I don't
Why?
think it's. I just don't think it's.
But like what?
I think the comments that you were making about being gay and black was very disrespectful to the.
That got that from a gay black dude. He gave me that joke. I remember exactly when it happened. It was 2011 in Stand Up New York. There was a guy in the corner was like, I was talking about being gay and black, and he gave it to me. This is strange. Let him stay. No, look. Like I said, I already got paid, so I'm good.
If you have any closing remarks.
Closing remarks. We got this on camera. Let me hold on. Closing remarks. Look, it's a strange time to be an Asian person in this country. I'll give you that much. Because it feels like there's a lot of racial tension. And at any moment, black and white people are going to go to war. And Indians are going to have to choose. And Asians are going to have to choose. But I don't think this, I don't know if it's overtly political correctness, but you can't insulate yourself from how the real world is. And this, I'm quite confident that none of this is disrespectful. I'm a generation older than y'all. I know what comedy is. I know what disrespect is. I've been through a lot. So I'm offended, but I'll take it in stride, which I think everyone should do. Like, there's a way to change things, and by marching on stage and being like, you gotta get the fuck off stage, that's quite disrespectful. I'm gonna leave because it's your stage. But know that you are incorrect in this.
To you.
Jesus. Cut the mic. Have a good night, live.
And then he did a round of interviews afterwards where he kind of, tried to think about what that meant, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. And this is what would have gotten me. I was 100% on your side. Then I became 200% on your side. When someone from up there, one of the undergrads, started describing what you did or rebutting the language you used in the op-ed and started alleging that you had a tantrum. And you said, fuck it. I got the entire footage of what I did. Now you be the judge. And I just wonder, was that the most annoying thing to you?
It was. I didn't like being called a liar.
Yeah.
You could certainly say I should have performed better at the show. If I'm in my headspace at that show, I'm I'm a week after. It's a week after I've proposed to my now wife. It's 5 months since I've been let go from SNL. It is they have no job prospects. I got a lot of hope I got a camera crew with me because I'm hoping to shop this hour that I'm cobbling together to a Netflix or an HBO. And I'm doing the hour after that show at UCB. So this is like my warm-up set for
literally that night?
Same night.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm taping both.
Right.
But knowing that the second show is the one that I really care about.
Yes.
And going into this college gig, like, it's college. I know it's gonna be bad. And I walk in, it's 500 kids, and the ceilings are insanely high. It's bright as fuck. Bunch of break dancers on stage. I'm like, oh, this is not made for comedy. And I'm 30 something at the time, and everyone there is like 20. And on top of that, I was rejected from Columbia, in 2004. So I already got some animosity. So that was the context within which I was performing. And so, should I perform better? 100%. But being called, they said I said I called all them bitches like immediately.
Yeah.
And I was like, I only used that word like twice in my act on purpose. I definitely probably said it like to a crowd member, like if the moment decided it, and to like a comedic effect, not like you fucking bitch, but just like
Wouldn't be funny.
yeah. But that bugged me, just being called a liar, and I was like, all right, well, here it is. This is, you want to watch it, go for it.
Yeah.
Here's me middling, doing like a performing mid at this show that they said I did all this stupid shit at, and that was annoying. But you know, I've been taught to be forgiving, and that's really all I'm trying to do.
It got you a lot of attention, maybe before you were ready for the attention, but actually I think you played it well. Do you think in any way it made you a better comedian?
Probably. If I think about it, it made me a better comedian in the sense like I definitely took more into like the context within which I was operating into effect. I was definitely on stage a bit cockier than I should have been.
Right.
But also like the first few minutes I'm doing well.
Right.
And I know this crowd, and I know college students. So if I'm getting like 60% of them, I think I'm killing.
Yeah. In this high ceiling cathedral that's
Exactly.
inimical.
And I feel
comedy.
like, but it was also like I was playing this like apathetic, but also really cared role. And I learned to not approach situations like that. But that's like a life lesson, not necessarily just a comedy lesson.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it made me a better comedian in the sense like I definitely pace the stage more. I'm definitely a bit more active. I definitely will never do any kind of remote crowd work at a college show ever again.
Okay.
Because I was talking to the crowd, and like it's their first comedy show. They're in front of their student.
But pacing the stage, I mean, that might have happened without this one specific show.
Yeah.
That's just your evolution.
I think that last part is probably the one takeaway from that, like that I could apply to another comedic.
So it seems to me, let me draw out some of what I'm hearing, that the growth was based on you having lost the crowd and not doing so well in the moment. The thing that wasn't growth or didn't help, was really unfair, was them literally taking the mic from you. Although, if that whole thing didn't blow up, maybe you wouldn't have looked back at the tape and really played it back in your head and say, why did I lose the crowd? Maybe you'd be like, oh, that was a shit show.
I mean, I knew I lost a crowd because I talked to one girl a bit too long, and I hadn't in the moment realize when to bail.
Yeah.
I thought
But would you think of an act? Would you think of a set that didn't go so well as much if all the extra stuff of them essentially banning you from the stage hadn't happened?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I definitely would have thought about that. I think about all the sets all the time. I could have done this differently. I could have said this. I would have like I wouldn't still be thinking about it, but definitely like for a few days or a few hours afterwards. At least on the car ride down from there to UCB, I would have been like, oh, okay, that should have done this, should have done that. When I look back at that tape, which I haven't in a very long time, but in the aftermath of it, my biggest regret was just not being funnier when they asked me for like closing remarks and shit. Like I wish I was trying not to be mad.
Yeah.
But in trying not to be mad, I definitely stopped myself from being funny.
Right. You weren't operating at the top of your mind.
Yeah.
Different things were going on.
Exactly.
Right?
I wasn't like I felt like I could have said some funny shit that at least maybe not in that room would have been funny, but at least to the outside world it would have been funny.
If a comedian doesn't feel safe, like it's hard to come up with that.
It's not. I didn't feel safe. I just felt like, what is happening?
Well, you're unmoored. It's
I felt
uncomfortable.
embarrassed. I was embarrassed by what was going on.
You're being psychologically defensive, which is not going to allow the greatest jokes to flourish. Maybe Chris Rock felt the same way when he was punched by Will Smith. I don't know. He really could have come out with some amazing jokes, and I guess it's good that he didn't. But
I think he did. He handled it exactly how should have as a consummate professional.
Yeah. So when I listen to, I don't know what's going to happen with your career. I think I take you at your word. You'll probably go in phases or cycles, and you'll get back to some longer Thesis type jokes. Although I love, your Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh,
joke.
thank you.
It's very funny.
Oh, thank you.
I admire Taylor Swift as an artist. She's been on an incredible rise since like 2007. She was just straight fucking killing it. She's taken control of her own destiny. It's really fun and interesting to watch. Now, she's accumulated hundreds of millions of dollars by gathering like countless young women together. That's two things she has in common with Jeff Epstein, and it's really interesting.
I do wonder, I know you love Chris Rock, right? Everyone, yeah. So he does this joke. He does these kind of jokes with the through line, with the it's all right if it's all white. And, he's the cadence of a preacher to some extent. He's the king of I am making an argument and making a joke. Would you just say, well, that's good for him? Or do you admire that, but say that, I
love
gotta go
it.
a different direction? Yeah.
I mean, Chris is, the biggest influence in my comedy, the biggest influence, and has had an outsized impact in my career in general. But I think for me, where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
I'm just having fun with the things I'm saying.
Right.
Maybe come September when I actually hit the road for real, when I start my theater tour, like I will have to apply some principles that like structure stuff. But right now, I'm being pretty loose with it. Fast and Loose is the name of the tour. But that's just like because that's how I want to approach this next piece. Like Thank You China was what it was. That was written almost as a movie. If you watch it, it's got like a real film structure to it, or at least a lot of it does. And then Lucky Lefty with the cancer special was written as just like a one story kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
By design and because of that's what happened. And I was like, okay, I got 40 minutes on this one thing. Let's just talk it through, figure out how to tell the story well. This next one, I don't know. I've got a lot to think about and a lot to say. It's kind of it's coming together as vignettes at the moment, which I'm also very fine with. But yeah, I'm just on this path to see what comes.
When you call a crowd soft, what are you trying to do there? What effect does that have?
When I call a crowd soft, what effect am I trying to do? What effect am I trying to engender, and what does it actually do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remind them that this is just comedy, and that they shouldn't get their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
By anything in particular. What I think it does is puts people on the defensive a little bit. It makes them think, are we soft? Fuck you, we're not soft.
Oh, you think it goes, fuck you? I think you challenge them not to be soft.
Yeah, I think I hope that they are challenged and that the challenge is successful.
Well, if they like you and if they have the Mamba mentality, maybe they will rise to the challenge.
Exactly. But I don't think a lot of them, I don't think some do.
Well, now that people are coming to the shows for you, I think they might.
Yes.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask about.
Sure.
What does a comedian have? What does a stand-up have? His expressions, his jokes, his mannerisms, his voice, her voice. Your voice is really distinctive. It's low, it's gravelly. It fits in with your personality, I think. Did you have to cultivate that? Was this the voice you were talking with when you were an undergraduate at NYU? Tell me about how you use your voice and how you think your voice helps your comedy.
I think the voice is very disarming because they don't expect this voice to come from this face.
Okay.
Which is mildly racist, but I think I've sounded like people have always told me my voice is very deep, very early, like high school, early college days. It's not something I cultivated. It's definitely something that's just come. This is just how I sound. I think it's it would take a lot for me to try to figure out where it came from.
Yeah.
I know how much what you hear, how that impacts your vocal growth and definition.
Sure.
But I grew up, listening to DMX and then Incubus and Coldplay, and then more DMX and Redman and Method Man, and my dad who worked in a black neighborhood would come home and talk, but my mom would speak Gujarati. So this voice is a accumulation of that, and maybe all the weed I've smoked and damage I've done otherwise. But I don't wish, but I think people think I'm faking this voice. But this is what I sound like. If I'm talking like this, it's a lot low. I can
Yes.
fuck with it, but
Yes.
this is what I sound like.
Yes.
I can't really change it, and I don't even hear the depth.
No, I don't think that's how voices possibly
Yeah.
work in the sound cavity of your head.
Yeah.
Do you ever, I'm sure you tweak lines and you'll put a word here or a word there. What about intonation? You ever say, if I go down on this joke,
Mhm.
or if I pop it with something of a higher octave, it gets a laugh? Do you play with vocal quality with punchlines?
I definitely have. I can't remember specific instances, but there's definitely been moments where I recognized on stage that I said something differently, and like, oh, okay, I just said it a little less mean, or a little like more joyful, or a little sadder. And it's like it definitely impacts it all. But I'm not at the hyper expert level yet where I'm doing it like on every single word. When I was during pandemic, my friend Mookie Thompson and we created a cartoon together called Zoo Idiots. It was about a bunch of animals stuck in quarantine for unknown reasons. And I got to play a bunch of the characters, and I had to learn how to become a voice actor. And I'm not saying I got good at it, but
Right.
it was definitely a learning experience, a tremendous exercise in developing cadence for each particular word and knowing how each word can impact how and what you say. And I wish I could keep that up. It's just very difficult to do, but I hopefully one day when I got nothing else to do, I can work on changing every fucking word. That'd be awesome.
Nimesh Patel is sonorous. He's touring the country.
Yes.
He's frequently hospitalized. you can find his YouTube special, or you can find a special of his on YouTube called Thank You, China. A new hour will be out soon that'll be based on the touring he's doing. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you.
We should also point out that it's about 100 degrees in here the day we were talking.
I'm not just lying about everything. It's hot as balls.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.